Hello everyone, welcome to my video. In this part, I will explain about data definition language. You need to know that in MySQL, a database is a collection of objects that are used to store and manipulate data such as tables, database views, triggers, and stored procedure. Data definition language is a standard for commands that define the different structure in a database. DDL statement create, modify, and remove database objects such as tables, index, and users. This term is also known as data description language in some contexts, and it describes the fields and records in a database table. Commonly, DDL statements in SQL are create, alter, and drop. We will discuss this statement in more detail. First, I will explain about create database command. Before doing anything else with the data, you need to create a database. A database is a container of data. It can store contacts, vendor, customer, or any kind of data that you can think of. To create a new database via the MySQL program, you use the following steps. First, log in to MySQL server using the root user. You can use this syntax to log in into MySQL. The syntax is MySQL -u root, then -p, and then you enter the password. If your root user doesn't have any password, you can just write MySQL -u, then root. Then, to create a database, in MySQL you use create database. If no exists, then database name. Okay, let's discuss the create database statement in more detail. Followed by create database statement is database name that we want to create. And then if no exists is an optional clause of the statement. The if not exists clause prevents you from an error of creating a new database that already exists in the database server. Because we cannot have two databases with the same name in a MySQL database server. For example, to create a database, you can try to create classic model database with executing the create database statement as follows: create database and then classic model. After executing this statement, MySQL returns a message to notify whether the new database has been created successfully or not. Next, I will explain how to display list of database. We can use show database to display list of database. So database statement lists all database in the MySQL database server. So database statement can be used to check the database created or to see all the database on the database server before create a new database. You can see the result of show database statement in this screenshot. As clearly shown in the output, there are three databases in the MySQL database server. The information scheme and MySQL are the default databases that are available when we install MySQL, and the classic model is the new database that we create before. Then I will explain how to select or choose the database that we want to use. Before working with a particular database, we must tell MySQL which database to work with by using the use statement. For example, select the classic model sample database using the use statement as follows. Use and then the database name is classic model. From now, all operations such as querying data, create new tables, or calling stored procedure which you perform will take effect on the current database that in this case is classic model. The second command is alter database. The alter database statement is used to modify, maintain, or recover an existing database. MySQL provides the alter function that helps us incorporate the change to the already existing database design. The alter command is used to modify an existing database, table, view, or other database objects that might need to change during the life cycle of a database. You can see the alter database syntax in this screenshot. The syntax is alter, then database or scheme, and then the database name, then the alter specification. For example of alter specification is if we want to modify the character set, collect, or encryption of our database. The third statement is drop database. We use drop database to remove database. Removing database means deleting all the tables contained in the database and the database itself permanently. Therefore, it is very important to execute this query with extra caution. And then to remove a database, we can use the following syntax: drop database, close, then followed if exists, then followed by database name that we want to delete. Similar to the create database statement, the if exists is an optional part of the statement. The if exists clause to prevent from removing a database that does not exist in the database server. And to implement a drop database statement, we can create a new database and then we make sure that it is created and then remove the database. Okay, we can see the statement in this following screenshot. First line is to create database. We can use create database if not exist, then tempdb. The statement will create tempdb database using create database statement. And the second line, it displayed all database using the show database statement. And the third line is drop database. It will remove the tempdb database using drop database statement. Next, I will discuss about table. In MySQL, tables are database objects that contain all the data or information in a database. To create a new table within a database, we use MySQL create table statement. The create table statement, it is one of the most complex statements in MySQL. The following illustrate the syntax of the simplified version of the create table statement. First, we specify the table name after the create table clause, and note that if not exists is an optional clause that allows you to check if the table that you are creating already exists in the database or not. If the table exists in the database, MySQL will ignore the whole statement and will not create any new table. It is highly recommended to use if not exists in every create table statement to avoid an error of creating a new table that already exists. Second, specify a list of columns for the table in the column list section. The columns are separated by comma. And the third line is specify the storage engine for the table. We can use engine clause and then define the storage engine. And it is optional, so if the storage engine were not declared, MySQL will use InnoDB as default. Okay, then I will explain in more detail about column lists. Column lists specify a list of columns for the table. And to define a column in column list, we can use the following syntax. We can use column names and then specify data type and maximum length, and then specify not null, default value, or auto increment. And this is optional for not null, default value, and auto increment. Okay, the most important component of this syntax first is column name. It specifies the name of the column, and then each column has a specific data type and maximum length. For example, varchar 255. Okay, and then the not null, it indicates that the column does not allow null value. And then the default value is used to specify the default value of the column. And then the auto increment indicates that the value of the column is generated by 1 automatically whenever a new row is inserted in the table. And note that each table has one and one only auto increment column. Then to set a column or a set of columns as the primary key, we can use this following syntax. Primary key and then the column that we want to set as primary key. Okay, then the following statement shows you how to create a new table. Suppose we are going to create a new table called tasks with the following structure. You can see that the task table contains task ID, title, start date, due date, status, priority, and description with specific data type and maximum length. We can create this table using SQL syntax. Like this, create table. If no exists, then the table name is task. After that, we specify the column list. First is task ID with the data type is integer, and then we set task ID as auto increment. Then the second is title. The data type is varchar and maximum length is 255 and set title to not null. Next is start date and then due date with the data type is date, and then status and priority with the data type tiny integer and we set into not null, and then description with the data type is text. Then we set task ID as a primary key, and in this example we specify the engine as InnoDB. Okay, then let's discuss about alter table. The alter table statement modifies the structure of an existing table, and it's generally used to add a column, drop a column, change the date type of column, and add primary key, and then rename table, and many more. The following illustrate the alter statement syntax. Alter table, and then table name, and then action 1, action 2, and so on. To change the structure of an existing table, first we need to specify the table name to change after the alter table close. And then the second is list a set of action to be applied to the table. An action can be anything, such as adding a new column, adding primary key, or renaming table. And note that the alter table statement can be applied as multiple actions in a single alter table statement, and these actions are separated by comma. Suppose we want to modify the tasks table that we have created before. For example, if we want to set the auto increment attribute for task ID column, so the value of task ID column to be increased automatically one by one whenever we insert a new row in the task table. We can use the statement as follow. Alter table task and then change column and then the specific of column that we want to change, that is task ID, and then task ID with the new rule is task ID integer 11 and then set into not null and auto increment. Then if you want to add a new column called complete to record the representation of completion for each task in the task table, we can use the alter table to add a new column to the task table as follows. Alter table task and then add column, the name of column that is complete, and then the data type, decimal, and then the length, and then we set into null. And we need to specify the place that we want to add the complete column, that is after description column. So we need to add after description. Then suppose we don't want to store the description of task in this table, we want to remove it. We can use the following statement to remove the description column of the task table. Alter table task and then drop column description. And then I will show you the other comments that may be used to modify table. First is the command to rename a table in the database. We can use rename table and then the old table name, then to, and then new table name. Okay, then to show a table structure, we can use the following syntax, describe, and then table name. And the last, to change column name that's already on a table, you can use the following syntax, alter table, and then we need to specify the table name, and then change, and then old column name, and then we add new column name and new data type and then new size. This is if we want to change a column name and the rule of the data type and size. Then I will explain about drop table. To remove existing table, we can use MySQL drop table statement. In this example, it will remove the task table that previously created. The syntax tries to remove a table that does not exist in the database for demonstration the show warning statement. So we want to drop table if exists, and then the table that we want to remove is task and non-existent table. Okay, the statement remove the task table and non-existent table, and you can see that if we use show warning statement, we will get warning message. And the last, this is a syntax to quit from MySQL. We can tap exit if we want to quit from MySQL. Okay, I think enough for the theory. Let's try to practice using MySQL. So if we want to use MySQL, we can go to control panel and then we start the service for Apache and MySQL. After this service running, we can click in shell to open the command prompt. Okay, to access MySQL, we can use command prompt or we can use the browser. First, I will show you how to use command prompt. First, we need to log in into MySQL. We type MySQL -u and then root and then -p. Okay, we need to enter the password. Okay, then I have entered into MySQL, so I can use this MySQL server. For example, I want to create a new database first, so we can use the statement create database and then the database name, for example, company. Then we add semicolon, enter. So if we get the reply query OK, it means that we have created a new database. And then, for example, if we want to show the database that we have in MySQL server, we can use show databases. And semicolon, enter. Okay, so we have database in here. This is company. And then if we want to use this database, we can type use company. Database change into company. We can create the table in here. If we want to create a table, we can use create table and then employee. Okay, and then we need to specify the column list. First is maybe nib and then integer 18, and then we add comma, name, varchar, and then for example we address with text, and then department maybe text. Okay, I think it's enough. We can end this creatable statement, then enter. So query OK, it means that we have created a new table. We can show the structure of table using describe and then employee, the name of table. Yes, this you can see that this is the structure of table employee. Okay, then I will show you the other way to use MySQL. We can use browser to access MySQL. We can also use browser to access MySQL by typing the address 127.1.1.0 and then PHP myadmin. Okay, this is a database that we created before, company, and then we can see the structure of the table that we have created by click structure. You can see this is the tab and then the length of the data in specific column. And then for example, we want to change the structure of database, structure of the table, we can use this SQL. We can write the SQL statement in here. For example, we want to add a NIP as the primary key. We can use alter table and then the table name is employee and then add primary key, that is NIP. Okay, you can see in structure. It means that NIP as the primary key of this table. And then for example, if we want to change the attribute NIP as not null and then auto increment, and then we want to change the name of this attribute, we can use alter table employee and then change column, for example NIP into number of employee and then integer, maybe integer 20 and then not null, then auto increment. So we want to change the name of NIP attribute and then the data type, and then we set into not null and auto increment. Okay, go. Okay, we can see the result. So the attribute name is number of employee, and then this is integer 20, and then set not null and then auto increment. The other example, if we want to add a new column in this table, we can use alter table employee and then add a new column, for example font, and the tab is varchar 12 after description. Okay, we can try to run. Go. Oh, there is no department, sorry. We can add after department. Okay, this is return okay. Okay, this is our new column, our new attribute font with the data type is varchar 12. And then, for example, if we want to change the name of table, we can use alter table employee, and then maybe rename to employees with S. Okay, yeah, you can see that the name of this table changed. We cannot use the other way to change the name of table using rename table and then employees to employee again. We want to back to the previous name. Okay, and then run. Okay, wait. Okay, the new table is employee. Yeah, you can see in here, but maybe there is no update in here. Okay, so we refresh the page. Okay, and there is update in this table name, become employee. And then if you want to delete the column, we can use alter table, and then we need to specify the table name, and then drop column. For example, font, drop column font. So we want to remove the font attribute. Okay, we can see in this structure of the employee. Okay, there is no font attribute, font column in this table. And then if we want to remove the table, we can use drop table employee. Okay, you really want to execute? Yes. So we have deleted the employee table. And then if you want to delete the database, we can use drop database and then the database name, that is company. So we will delete the database company. Okay. Okay, SQL return empty result, so we can run this query. So the database company is removed from this MySQL server. Okay, thank you now for this tutorial. Thank you for your attention and see you on the next video.